I'm Karl. I live in Chicago. That's the better way to put it, as you said before. Right now, I'm also born and bred Midwesterner. Born in Iowa, grew up in Illinois, went to school in Indiana, college in Indiana. And then I hightailed my ass out to New York City and spent 22 years on the East Coast. And that included New York, Washington, and then a small town in Maryland. Then I had to come back here when the economy crashed and burned. And been here since, and still trying to leave town again because I want to go north, and I want to go to North Michigan next. I've held almost every position in a restaurant except for head chef. Well, no, I was head chef for 2 weeks. Before that, I was in the advertising business. And advertising, you're only as secure as your last client's retainer check. So I ended up going to restaurant work until I found another job in advertising. So technically, the restaurant work was my shallow career for over a decade when I was in advertising. And then finally I burnt out and said, you know what, why don't I just go on into the restaurant business just for a fluke? And then next thing I knew, I was a bartender at the biggest redneck bar in town. And I was at the gay sports bar, the only gay sports bar in Chicago, which itself is somewhat hilarious. The bartender asked me, he's like, well, you gay or straight? I'm like, I'm gray. And they're like, what do you mean? And he said, what do you mean by that? I'm like, okay, well, you know, there's a spectrum. There's gay, straight, gay. There's black, there's white, black. Between white and black, there's a lot of gray. Well, I'm in the gray. The biggest blowback I ever get from that usually comes from gay men. The gay men who just like, you know, if you don't fit a label, they can't handle you. Or they sit there and start criticizing you, or they sit there and start saying, well, that doesn't exist. Or, well, you bisexual? That doesn't exist. It's like, how the fuck would you know? And the idea of the notion of having to have a certain label or have to have a certain persona within a community is to me abhorrent, which is why I'm always highly critical of the so-called gay community, and especially gay white men, younger gay white men. I'm just like, oh, you cry so hard that you want acceptance. But then you sit there and literally will be anything from dismissive to abusive to people who don't fit your mold of what gay men should be like. A few years ago, there was this big brouhaha broke out in Boys Town. Which, don't get me started about Boys Town. The initial reports came out in the news. Okay, these black guys had started, there was a big fight with the black and white guys, and everyone just assumed the black guys came and just started some shit. Came out a day and a half later, I think it was a day and a half later, came out a day and a half later, these black guys were gay guys who came up from the South Side where there are no gay bars. And they came up to the South, they came to Boys Town so they could hang out. And while they were walking down the street, a bunch of drunk gay guys started insulting them and using, you know, racial epithets. So the guys reacted. So a fight broke out. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't like to be called faggot, but you have no problem calling someone a because they're not, even though they're gay too. You have no problem. You want to go up there and cry kumbaya, kumbaya, let's all hold hands and accept each other, but you can't accept each other. But you can't accept what you don't like. You can't accept other people who may not identify the way you identify with yourself. You know, and that's to me, and it's like, fine, okay, you know what? Fuck you. Fuck you gays. Fuck you. I don't give a damn. I'm black. You don't know what I've been through. And when people start saying, well, you know, we have this struggle, fuck your struggle. You don't know what it's like. I can't hide the fact I'm black. There's no closet for me. So when you come up and cry to me about, oh, well, we want just equal rights. No, fuck you. You don't know what it's like not to have equal rights. Your asses weren't lynched like we were. I have family members that had shit like that happen to it. And you're sitting up there crying because you can't get married. And I don't mean to have to like everybody. That's the other problem I have with the gay community. Let me get that started too. That's the other problem I have. Being accepted by somebody and being liked are two different things. I don't have to like you because you're gay, but I can accept you. You don't have to like me because I'm black, but you can accept me as being just a human. Remember, I ran a redneck bar for 5 years and hung out in another redneck bar. So I'm used to rednecks, and usually funny, rednecks, way more open-minded than most gay guys. There is homophobia in the black community, and I wouldn't say necessarily it's more so than any other community. It's just that, of course, it's a black community, so the media and white people focus in on that. I mean, first place is we need to get off this bullshit about the fact that all black people act the same. But number two, like any other community in this goddamn country, we have the conservative people who are black, and we have the liberal people who are black. We have the accepting black people, we have the non-accepting black people. But in the black community, it's not the Christian blacks that are pointed out. No, it's all black people. They don't say the Christian blacks who are, or the Christian conservative blacks, or the fundamental and Christian blacks are homophobic or dislike homosexuality or against certain things. Yes, that's true. But it's referred to as the black community. Back to working at Crew, where everybody was pretty much in their 20s or early 30s. And I was stunned. I said Stonewall was a long time ago, but things still haven't all changed. And he was like, what's Stonewall? And I'm like, seriously? You don't know what Stonewall is? You're gay, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, and you don't know what Stonewall is? He's like, no. And I literally asked 3 other waiters. None of them knew what Stonewall was. And I was like sitting there like, and they're like all in the 20s and early 30s. And I'm sitting there like, that's like me not knowing about, I don't know, Rosa Parks. You know, and I don't expect you to pick up signs and start writing dissertations about it or anything, but at the same time, it's just, you know, I know my history. I know about the riots, I know about the lynchings, I know about all that stuff. If you don't know about these things, you don't know what it was like before Stonewall, you don't know what even Stonewall was about. If you don't know what it's about, then what the hell are you fighting for? What exactly do you want? 3 things I do really well in this world. And cooking and writing are the other 2. and what I have written includes 5 novels. I don't know how many short stories. I kind of lost count. I've won I don't know how many awards. And I attended not one, but the 2 top writing conferences in the country. In both of them, you have to get accepted to. You don't just cut a check and they let you in. I write about stuff people don't want to talk about. People want to avoid. I write about sex. I write about race. I write about violence. I write about class. I write about religion. You know, in one of my books, I have a story, which is a story about an up-and-income black family. One of the disturbing things I started off early on was when one of the characters, one of the brothers, is walking down a golf course and he sees a group of black kids and he crosses over to get away from the black kids. But then he sees a group of white kids, he doesn't think twice about it. And that was supposed to be the whole aspect of self-hatred. Hell, a woman from Simon & Schuster actually wrote me a rejection letter saying that my family that had a doctor, a Wharton business graduate, a professional tennis player, and a lawyer as black people was unrealistic. You know, she said it was simply, she said, I had the letter at home somewhere, she said simply unrealistic. Oh no, well, who's the drug dealer? Who's the guy who just got out of prison? Which one of them got out of prison? Which one of them have 5 babies by 6 different men? Yes, I did know, the math doesn't work, but still. You know, as it's obvious that I have opinions and points of view, that's made my work difficult to publish. In the novel, it's called Boomtown, Last Postcard from America. The whole book takes place in the year 2033, and America collapses into 18 different countries. It could be anything that's bad now, I just made it worse. And people couldn't handle it. Then again, that's why it's difficult to get my work out. That was the book that people were like, one publisher wrote back to me, and one agent wrote back to me, and he wrote, I just don't know what to do with this. That was the other thing. You want to talk about race again? You know, we've always, my mother even did this once. She goes, why don't you write about something nice? Watch, I don't write about how they were able to reach the heights of whatever they were trying to do. I look for the lows. I find the dirtiest, awfulest things, and I just project it into something that is meaningful in the way of showing how bad people can get. Being dark is a natural state for me. It is logically the way to go. I look out at the sky and I look out at buildings and houses and everything, and I think, what fucked up shit's going on in there? I don't see happy families and you know, eating turkey on Thanksgiving. I see deviant, fucked up shit.